All right, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to do another live. The other topic was a little too stale, but and I get it because it's late night as well too. So hopefully, I got some night owls that are up, and I'm not ready to retire yet, meaning sleep. But yeah, we're gonna talk about it. And the question today, and we're gonna talk about it. Are the passport bros finished in Japan? That's the question. Because there's been a lot of talks about Japan. I've been watching it over there, and they're in the process of trying to they're about to let's say import or bring in a lot of immigrants into Japan from Tunisia, I think it is. You know what I'm saying? So that part of Africa. So the prime minister, for what I understand, he's very liberal, and there's a lot of young Japanese that are very, very upset. Hopefully, I get some people from Japan on tonight where we can discuss. Whoops, where we can talk about it and discuss what's been going on over there. They'll know firsthand. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so they'll know firsthand of what I'm talking about here. So other than that, yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and I guess dive right into it. But before I do, let me go ahead and I'm gonna share the tab here, and that way we can all look at it together. hmm So here it is, right here, ladies and gentlemen. Japanese Africa outreach sparks outrage at home, right? So this is basically what it is. The Japanese city, part of Tunisia, and things, which is in Africa, which sits next to Morocco. For my geographic, because I'm pretty good in geography. So let me see, Tanzania. Tanzania, I think it's one. Okay, it might be further inland in Africa though, Tanzania. But at any event, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, they're not very happy for us with the Japanese. Let's just keep it real. Japanese ain't really happy these days. I'm talking about the young Japanese people. They're not really happy about most of the immigrants, foreigners that's in their country, people over there that's working and everything. The young Japanese are upset because they're blaming them for their price increase in their country. Also they're seeing because Japanese people are very prideful people, and I've talked to some people that lived over there, and the problem is what they're facing is that you getting more and more immigrants over there. Crime is starting to grow or starting because Japan never really had a big thing with crime, but like with other countries, when you start letting in, you know, immigrants, foreigners, and let's just say the people that's over there living over there, they haven't really assimilated into the Japanese culture. You know what I'm saying? They haven't really embraced or assimilate into society over there, which is a big, big issue. You know what I mean? So this is where people in Japan are very, very upset. Let alone, you know what I'm saying? They are upset. They don't like the fact that these foreigners in their country causing a ruckus. Now they're about to send in a lot more from Tanzania. That's gonna be yeah, that's gonna be a problem. And it's not the Tunisia I'm thinking about. It's Tanzania, which is not next to Morocco. I stand corrected on that. So yeah, I got a little bit mixed up, you know. But at any event, so this is an issue though, ladies and gentlemen, and things. So what does that mean? What does that leave the passport bros? because you're starting to see a lot of anti-American, or I say anti foreigners is what I'm trying to say. Foreigners. And the more that they're more getting more and more outraged about this thing too. Like I said before, they don't like it. A lot of the Japanese, especially the young ones, they don't like it because Japan itself, they're going through an economical crisis over there. I thought about going over there. I said, I kept looking at the news and stuff. The stuff over there is very expensive. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing. It's there is a lot of rules in Japan though when you go into countries and stuff. So as far as the passport bros, there's people that been over there. You know, it's just not looking good. And I'm gonna say this too. What helped with the Japanese they're not liking the foreigners because there's people, in these other countries like Australia and Germany, UK, and America. These are like the main ones. Passport bros too. They go over to these other countries, ladies and gentlemen, and then we already know what ended up happening, right? We already know what happened. So they go over there, get drunk, and act a fool, right? You know, and you have heard of some of these guys that get out of line and become like an international incident, and things like that. It's just really, really sad, So there's a lot of young Japanese people that, once again, they just don't. Then it's not liking a lot of foreigners in their country because when the Japan itself, when it's not doing very well economically, the first person you blame are going to be foreigners and immigrants, right? Immigrants are the first, foreigners are the second in general, right? Because everybody needs an scapegoat, and as far as with the Japanese, and that would be with any other country too, because if the economy is not doing well, who's the first one to blame, And I know when people or certain countries, they'll start blaming and using ethnic slurs to basically blame why the country is not doing so good. So where does that lead the passport bros? Well, it put the passport bros in a very, very interesting situation, because you're starting to see more and more people now. I'm hearing stories about there's groups of Japanese people, not a lot of them, but there's a few of them that they're really against seeing a lot of foreigners over there in their country. They don't like the foreigners over there. They don't really like, especially the immigrants. So there's places over there that could be very dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the thing about it. Japan is not doing that great economically until the Japanese figure out a way how to reinvent themselves. Because at one time they were the leaders of tech. They were like the basically the powerful country economically and everything. The yen was very, very strong back then until it started fizzling out in the late 90s, because you have a thing called competition where Koreans have caught up and surpassed them. Same thing with the Chinese. Chinese still in intellectual property and stuff like that, where they also became a force to be reckoned with. So where does that leave Japan, ladies and gentlemen? Well, the economy started going down over there. And this is another thing why they are upset. They are upset about it. And what they're going to start doing more and more, you're starting to see it already. They're protesting out in the streets and things. They're blaming their government. They're blaming the prime minister over there. And they're not happy with the way things are going. Because these are young people, where you got to work a exuberant amount of hours, not making enough money, can't afford marriage. There's a lot of things going on. And then when you see a foreigner when in their country, you know what I'm saying? In their country, ladies and gentlemen, in their country. And what are they doing in their country? Well, they're working, and some of them got good jobs. Now I know with as far as Japan, you have to have a 4-year degree. You just can't work in Japan. There's other workarounds, but for the most part of it, you have to have a 4-year degree unless a company over there is going to sponsor you. Yeah, just drinking my water. Unless a company over there is going to sponsor you. And that's another thing. You know, if you can get sponsored, then it's a great thing. But if not, then it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So, yeah, because that's the thing about it. Japan, if they're allowing the Tanzanians into their country, I'm going to say this. It's going to be the passport bros, it's going to be a change for you guys that are over there. Because now you got a fleet of immigrants coming over there. And I don't, that's the thing about it, though, because I'm hearing more and more stories about Japan, the Japanese, at pretty much at a zero birth rate. Because if the young men are not producing, if they're not getting married, they're not having children. And we know it's the economy, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not married. I don't have any children either. But that's at the forefront. It's the fact it's a money issue, first of all. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, where are you going to get it? You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing about it, though, Yeah, I can take care of myself. I can sleep on an air mattress. I can eat ramen noodles. I can rough it. I know how to rough it, But for a family, no, you don't want to do that. With me, it's easy to take care of me. But take care of a wife and kids, that's another whole issue. And, you just got a lot of Japanese, the young ones, they just are not into the standard marriage thing like that. They want to do something different. So maybe you guys can chime in on this. Why the Tanzanian people are coming over there to Japan? Is it for helping with their situation, as far as the birth rate, I should say? You guys can chime in on it. I'm over here looking at some of these comments, though. I'm Japanese. I came across this, so I thought I comment. The reason the number of young Japanese people are declining is because the country has been pursuing bad policies for over 30 years. And that's the thing about it, bad policies. So whatever those bad policies are, because like I said before, the tech industry in Japan is kind of dried. It's actually dried up pretty bad for them. You know what I'm saying? So, because they are at a zero population rate. Somebody else commented and said some cities and towns have already become unsafe due to immigration. Many Japanese are angry about the globalist politics that ignore the Japanese people. So they have some gripes, though, ladies and gentlemen. They do have some gripes in regards to that, because it is a globalist issue in the first place. The globalists have been pushing these policies in America as well when it come down to immigration, because look at it, we have fought against and pushed back against illegal migration coming into America. At one time, people were just crossing the border. There was no stops. There was no do you have this and that? It was catch and release. They were just releasing them into America. Nobody was being vetted. You know what I'm saying? We had over 15 mil enter into America. Crime started going way up. So this is a point back to the Japanese person that made that comment, because he is right, though. It is, when you start having issues with immigration, and they've been pushing this. Just here's some examples. Look at the UK, look at Germany. They're bad. Look at Canada too. They're bad. I see their immigration policies in Canada for a long time, where they have like all types of people. You got Jamaican, these African nations, Indian, and when you start looking at it, like Toronto and some of these other bigger cities, crime have gone up. I'm hearing more shootings in Toronto alone. You know what I'm saying? So, because they got a very, very strict weapons thing going on, but they got guns. They still manage to have guns in Canada. 20, 30 years ago, it was very rare that you heard somebody getting shot. Now you're hearing about it more randomly. Same thing in Japan. So they are absolutely right regards to the young Japanese. They're pushing back against the globalist policies that they've been pushing, because that's the plan. In order for you to bring a country down, you flood them with immigration, right? You get illegal immigrants over into your country, and then they're not going to assimilate, especially in Japan, because they never assimilated into America. So this is a problem, and regards to that. So yeah, this is an issue. This is a major, major issue. I'm just going to treat this more like a video than a live tonight. So I figure I'd go ahead and talk about this. But it's something of concern to a lot of Japanese, because they are looking and seeing how America, and seeing how we're cleaning it up too. We push back against the globalist policies as well too. And right now, we are the beacon for other countries in the world to start pushing back as well. You see in protests in the UK, you're going to start seeing these protests in these other countries. Australia, you're seeing protests over there as well. And shout out to them as well. I gotta give a shout out to let me go ahead and do that too, because I said I was going to do that. We're going to go ahead and give a shout out to the UK people as well as in Australia and things. So also we got to give a shout out to Japan as well too. We're going to give a shout out to Japan. Yep, we got to give a shout out. So yeah, that's basically what it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly what we're talking about here. So what we're seeing more now is the pushback. Now, getting on the passport bros, there have been a lot of bad apples in Japan when it come down to the passport bros. The ones that came over there have not represented the country well, let alone their ethnic, some of their ethnic background very well either. And I can give you some examples. You guys remember Johnny Somali? Remember that dude? He was the Somalian. I think he was American Somalian, but he was Somalian background. Everybody heard of Johnny Somali, right? Johnny Somali carried himself in the worst way, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He went over there and started insulting the Japanese people, talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it was real disgraceful. And this is an African. He's actually a real African American, I believe it is. I believe he's American, but he lived over in Japan. And you guys remember what happened with him and things like that. So he was actually attacked, but he brought it on to himself. He got checked by some of the passport bros as well, because this guy right here made it bad for passport bros, especially if you were black. If you were black or African, man, he made it bad, man. Johnny Somali, man. Yeah, from Somalia. I think he's a Somali background. He made it bad for the brothers over there in Japan, man. And yes, Johnny Somali. You guys remember Johnny Somali? He's a Somalian American that went over there, lived in Japan and everything, passport bro. And he made it bad, man. He was over there clowning, being disrespectful in the worst way to the Japanese, though, And usually the Japanese people usually come on about this time rocking with me as well. But they know what I'm talking about, And I'm right with you guys. You young Japanese over there, the globalists pushing these policies. with these immigrants in your country, man. I said to Japan, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't allow them to do it, man. Because I'm telling you right now, immigration, mass immigration is a problem. Look at America, man. They don't assimilate into American culture very well. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you are trying to preserve your ethnic heritage and your background, guess what? I would suggest for you guys to figure out a way to your birth problem, because that's key right there. Your prime minister in Japan is justifying by saying, because you do got a problem. You got a couple. You got an economical problem. You have a birth rate problem as well. And those two issues you cannot ignore. So what are you to do? Because if your young people they're not getting in relationships, they're not trying to have children. You realize they got cities in Japan, like in some of these like mainland Japan, that is uninhabited. I mean, they got cities over there that people are not living in them. You know what I'm saying? And that's an issue. So what I mean, you got to come up with some type of thing. You're gonna have to figure this stuff out. If the Japan could reinvent themselves and figure out a way, because right now, yeah, it's not looking so good economically, socially, politically. It's not looking in your favor right now. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I don't want to see anybody, far as what's the word I'm trying to say? I don't want to see a decline any further in your population, So thing about it is that, you got to figure out a way. Some of these people that are over there, some of the passport bros, because a lot of the thing about it though, and I want the Japanese people to understand, everybody that's a passport bro ain't on that what stuff. You got some of them but most of them, man, they have just ones that are married to Japanese women over there and all kind of stuff, So what I'm saying is that the Japanese gonna have to figure out a way how to reinvent themselves economically, because you're at a 0 percentage birth rate. That's not good. That's not good, because your young people are not producing. You're not having children. And this is how you can age out and die out. You can actually, like I said, you guys are more in a decline with your ethnic race, because the younger people are not producing. And the problem with that is, it's like, and I have to agree with the other person, this is a 30-year-old problem. This problem should have been figured out a way, because even though you guys, you did very, very well tech-wise, but others have caught up competition. And with the Chinese, they make it very, very difficult to be a leader in tech when they can mass produce it. They can rip your IP off, right? And then they can produce it a lot cheaper. That's something right there that's very, very difficult to deal with. But hopefully you guys could be able to invest in some of these foreigners. I'm talking about people that are working in Japan, that have degrees that meet the criteria to live and work in Japan. And and these guys that are living there, a lot of them have to adjust living in Japan, because I really don't see too many passport bros really complaining about it. Most of them have adjusted, speak Japanese, what I'm saying, have to assimilate into this culture and society, because you guys can't have it both ways, my young Japanese people. Bros, y'all can't have it both ways. Either you're going to have to figure out a way to build up the Japanese economy, or you're going to have to deal with other things, what I'm saying? Because you guys got to come up with that. I don't have the answer on that, but you guys are going to have to come up with something. You're going to have to come up with it quick. And the other thing is that you're going to have to embrace the passport bros, because they possibly could save the Japanese culture and society, especially if your young people are not doing it. If they can't do it financially, this is where the passport bros step in. You know, like I said, I really want to go over there really, really bad, but I've been watching the news, looking at the political landscapes. I'm seeing anti foreigners, immigration. It's not really cool right now to go over there until things straighten out. Because I really wanted to go last year, but I may just take the money and I'm gonna be saving up for and probably come up with something else, like another destination to go to. But like I said, something it's interesting, it's interesting. I don't have all the answers, but you know, it's just one of those things, though, man. You guys got to figure out a way how you gonna, how you gonna be able to grow your economy economically, and then fix your birth rate issue. Because the answer is definitely right up under y'all noses. It's going to be people that are foreigners, people that really love Japan. Everybody is not on Johnny Somali stuff. For the young Japanese people, everybody, you guys know who that dude is. I don't represent that dude. I'm not backing up that dude. I'm talking about, what about all the other dudes, the foreigners that's over there? They're marrying Japanese women, having families and everything. So everybody over there in Japan is not on the Johnny Somali stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what I'm saying for the young Japanese, though, too. You guys got to figure out a way, once again, economically. You got to figure that out. And secondly, if you're not doing the birth, because you're at zero birth rate, you got to come up with something. Your birth rate is very, very low. You're about to become zero eventually. So if you guys can't do it, you may have to look to the passport bros. That's just how it is. I don't really see a whole lot of solving things. I'm just saying, for my opinions, and things like that, because you're going to have to be prepared for some of you grandparents, you guys going to have to be prepared. Some of your parents going to have to be prepared that your children may possibly be half Japanese, so you guys going to have to get used to that. That's just how it is. That's just how it is, though. The half Japanese, that's going to be more of a thing, more so than ever. Korea is right behind you guys with the low birth rate as well. And even for Koreans, you guys in Korea, Japan, Japanese, you guys are going to have to get used to and get ready for having half mixed babies. That's just how it is. If you want to preserve and keep your culture, yeah, the passport bros can definitely help with that, because I don't see any other way. If your young people are not producing or in a relationship, it's not going to work. It's just not going to happen. You just got to have to come to terms with having half mixed children. And I see nothing wrong with it, because they all look beautiful anyway. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be a thing, though, It's going to be a thing, though. So let that marinate. I know some of you may not like that, but what is the other alternative? What is the other alternative? Because young Japanese people, let's just keep it real. The guys and some of the women too, but mainly the guys, they're not looking to be in that marriage relationship mindset. They're not looking for that stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just keep it 100. But if it wasn't so late, I would love to get some Japanese people that can get on here on my live, have this conversation with me. I would even invite you and give you the link. I would give you and have you to come up here on the mic and let you say your speech, say your piece. You know what I'm saying? Say your piece is what I'm trying to say. I see I'm gonna have to revisit this topic too again, because this is a thing, though. Passport boys, I don't think they're finished. I think it's more of a blessing in disguise because some of you guys are already there. Some of you guys are already married to a Japanese woman, and some of you already have children that are half biracial. So what I'm saying to the young Japanese, as well as the parents, they're going to have to get used to it. It's just how it is. You got to get out this notion about this purebred type stuff, because again, you don't even have that option. You're coming down to a low birth rate. And once you hit 0, it's a wrap. You don't want to be in those numbers. It's about getting those numbers up. In America too, we're dropping a lot too. There's a lot of Americans. I'm in America. There's not really a lot of people having children as much. And if you look at certain ethnic groups, it's even worse. But the Hispanic population still seem to persevere when it comes down to having babies. The Hispanics, Latinos, they still seem to have more babies and things like that. And then Indians as well too. Indians, Asians in certain countries, they seem to have a lot more children. But the Japanese, Korean, especially in your country, not so much. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop the live because it is getting late. And I have to get up in the morning to work. So other than that, I just wanted to put that out there and talk about that a little bit and things. So, I'm not an expert on this. I was going to play the video on this stuff, but I still just, let me just do this a little bit here.
To Japan. Their government has been in damage control mode for days now. And finally, they have made a strange proclamation. They want everyone to know that no, they will not be giving away a Japanese city to Tanzania. Yes, the country in East Africa. Now, to understand what's going on here, let's look at the bigger picture. The continent of Africa, it is vast, it is home to a young, fast-growing population, and it has huge mineral wealth, vast deposits of natural resources from gold and diamonds to cobalt and uranium. So competition has been growing. Countries are fighting for influence in Africa, from former colonial powers like France, Belgium, and the UK, to the US, China, and Russia. They've all been in this race, and now another player has entered this crowded space. Japan. They have made a range of moves in recent weeks. Most of them are grand promises, like loans of more than $5 billion, trainings for digital transformation, and an economic zone. This is what the Japanese Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba, has proposed. He wants to connect the Indian Ocean to Africa and spur investment in the continent. But that's not all. Last week, Japan also hosted a summit, an Africa summit called the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, or TICAD. It was a 3-day conference on African development, and it hosted leaders from about 50 African countries.
We, the people of Japan, wish to laugh, cry, and break a sweat alongside the people of Africa.
And Japan indeed did break a sweat soon after the summit. Everything was going fine, but then Tokyo made an announcement, and the overdrive quickly became overkill. Japan introduced a program, a cultural exchange initiative. They selected 4 Japanese cities, which will foster ties with 4 African countries: Mozambique, Nigeria, Ghana, and Tanzania. There will be exchange events. African volunteers will visit the 4 Japanese cities, or what the government calls hometowns for the partner countries. Now, they meant symbolic hometowns, but people did not really catch that nuance. Soon, misinformation spread. Local African media was over the moon. They published reports saying a Japanese city will now be part of Tanzania. The Nigerian government also added fuel to the fire. They said that Japan will create a special visa for young Nigerians. And the backlash was swift. You see, Japan has traditionally been strict on immigration. Plus, ethnically and even culturally, the society is largely homogeneous. So these statements led to furor, especially on social media. Most comments were blatantly racist. People worried about a flood of immigrants, about the possible lack of safety or the burden on their resources. Japanese city offices received a wave of angry calls and mails. They got thousands of complaints, so now the central government has stepped in. Tokyo has called the claims baseless. It has reassured the public, saying that there are no plans to promote immigration or
Yeah, I still think it's all bad though myself, man. Because I know Japanese are trying to get those resources from those African nations though. So with the exchange thing that they got going on, some of those African nations, man, I mean, you already got like I said before, in Japan. Now I haven't been to Japan, but I've talked to some people. There's crime that has gone up, and the reason that is the locals, which are the local Japanese, are blaming a lot of these immigrants and foreigners that's coming into their country, though. You know what I'm saying? So I think this deal is going to be a bad deal. I don't see nothing good from it, you know. So, I mean, are they going to really assimilate to be Japanese? You know, Japan is not something. It's not one of those type of countries easy to assimilate in, because not only that, you have to know the language, and they got a lot of culture. They got a lot of do not do things, and I mean, it's complex. It's a lot more difficult to explain some of these things, but their culture is not something like America. America is easier to assimilate, which I don't understand foreigners either. They never learn the language, though, man. It's like, you know, if you can learn the language and then learn some customs and stuff, because every country got their own customs, you know, that's the thing about it. But yeah, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this, though. Yeah, I'm way overdue. I just wanted to play a little bit. Other than that, thank you guys for watching Some Random Guy Speaks. Once again, I'm your host, Tony G. Have a wonderful night. I'm about to retire myself, go to bed, get some sleep. Gotta get up in the morning and go to work. But other than that, I appreciated that I really didn't have much of viewers tonight. It's too late. Mostly everybody is asleep. But yeah, for those that are popping in and popping out, there ain't much to see here, man. I already said my piece in regards to what has been going on there in Japan. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll revisit this topic much later. Peace.